Shalom, everybody. How are you doing today? I have a feeling maybe I'm not yet. Shalom, everybody. How are you doing? How's everybody? I hope you're happy and healthy. And welcome to our Monday night Pirkei Avot Ethics of the Fathers. Wonderful time together. Today I'm trying something new besides a very shiny forehead. My sister-in-law, Lisa, who lives in Florida, said to me, if you want to look like more directly at people, why don't you raise the laptop? So I did. I raised the laptop, and you'll let me know if this is a little bit better. Is it worse? Did you like it the other way? And I'll look at your comments and not really care. I'm only kidding. I'm kidding. I want to dedicate today's session of Pirkei Avot to the Refuah Shlema, which means the complete and speedy recovery for a young man who's a teenager. His name is Avigdor Chai Avraham ben Rachalea. Avigdor Chai Avraham ben Rachalea. We want to wish him a speedy and quick recovery. He's a young man who deals with various health issues, and um, hopefully, our learning tonight will help him to get better and stay better, God willing. So, this is in his merit, the study that we have this evening. Tonight, we have a teaching from chapter 1, Mishnah 12. Chapter 1, Mishnah 12. June, I hope you heard that. And it's a beautiful teaching. You may have heard it. It's a rather popular teaching amongst all the Jewish teachings. And it's a phrase by Hillel. Hillel, the great sage from the first century. And it says here, Hillel Omer. Hillel says, which is unusual because very often it would say Hillel Haya Omer. Hillel would say. But here it says Hillel says, which almost gives the sense that Hillel wants this phrase to ring in every generation. He's still saying it, as if to say, can you still hear me? Hillel saying this? And the truth of the matter is I chose this particular Mishnah or this teaching because I think our generation needs this. What's going on today in America and other places in terms of race relations, etc. I really think we need to hear this message, and that's why I chose it. So Hillel Omer, Hillel says, he's still saying it in our ear. It's such an important lesson. Hevi mitalmidav shel Aharon. Be like the students of Aaron. Who was Aaron? Aaron was the high priest during the times of the sanctuary in the desert. Aaron was the high priest. He was the brother of Moses. He was the brother of Miriam. Aaron, Aharon HaKohen. So Hillel says, be like the students of Aaron. What's special about Aaron that we should be students of his? So Aaron had four very special parts of his DNA, and here they are. Ohev Shalom. He loved peace. That's great. It's a good thing he's not living in our day. Would you agree with me? If he lived in our day, he'd be very sad and very depressed. So, Ohev Shalom. What's special about Aaron? He loved peace, but he didn't just stop there. Rodev Shalom. He also pursued peace. We'll talk about that. He had a third part to his DNA. Ohev et habriot. He loved God's creations, which means he loved people. He loved people in general. He loved all people. Now, back in his day, we're going back 3,000 years ago, who were his people? They were the Jewish people. But I think Hillel is also saying that if Aaron lived in our day, he would just be a lover of people. You know, people who were created in the image of God, Tselem Elokim, people who have that divine spark in them, they are worthy of being loved. They're worthy of being respected and honored, etc. So these are the three out of the four parts of his DNA. He loved peace. He pursued peace. He loved those that God created, mainly other human beings. Umekarvan la Torah. And because of all of that, he knew how to bring people close to the Torah. Now, here it's talking about Jewish people. His main audience was Jewish people. And he, through all of his various parts of his DNA, loving peace, pursuing peace, loving God's creatures, through all that, he was able to bring people closer to the Torah. So I have an opening interesting question, which My wife sometimes will say, "You tell me what it is, I'll tell you if it's interesting." So you'll let me know if it's interesting. Um, I would have thought that any kind of a big lesson like this, and again, this is a biggie, love peace, pursue peace, etc. I would have thought that Hillel would say, be like a student of Moses. Moses, wasn't Moses the during his lifetime? Didn't God say about Moses, he was the most humble of all human beings? Don't we say today that Moses was the greatest leader, the greatest Jewish leader of all time? Today, when you ask somebody if you could have dinner or breakfast, lunch, whatever meal, I'll take all three, frankly. If you could have a dinner with somebody who's alive or dead, who would it be? Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not particularly thrilled about having dinner with a dead person. But if it could be somebody who's dead that kind of came alive, uh, people constantly say Moses. Moses was the. So all of a sudden we find Aaron is the for this kind of a lesson. I thought Moses was the paradigm for every like good lesson, good behavior, good thinking, good philosophy. And it turns out that it's not. So you know what I found out? What you say? I'll let you know. Here's what I found out. Moses, apparently, according to the commentators, was not as beloved as his brother Aaron. How do you like that? So, how do we know? Is there a hint in the Torah, a suggestion that Aaron was more beloved than his brother Moses? And the truth is, we do find it. We find it because when Aaron passes away, which is in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 29, something like that, it says that the entire nation cried for him for 30 days. The entire nation cried for him. What does that mean? The men, the women, the young, the old, everybody. 30 days after he passed away. Now go to the very end of the Torah, the end of the 5 books of Moses, and look at the description when Moses dies. And it says, B'nai Yisrael, which generally is a euphemism for the children of Israel. B'nai Yisrael mourned Moses for 30 days. What do the commentators say? Rashi and others. They say that who mourned Moses? It was really the men. The women, not so much. It's not to say that they didn't feel terrible. They didn't feel bad. Of course they did. But when it came to like really tearful, from the guts mourning, they missed Aaron more than they missed Moses. Moses was the lawgiver. Moses was the judge. Moses was the one that passed judgment on everything and everybody. And he wasn't apparently as loving and warm and embracing as his brother Aaron. So that can tell us why this lesson was not taught as be one of the students of Moses with these 4 characteristics, because who had those characteristics? Not Moses, but his brother. His brother Aaron was known for these 4 things. So Moses was not as beloved. Aaron was much more beloved. And that's why we are studying aspects of his DNA, which again are so important nowadays, considering the headlines and all the things that America primarily is going through now with race relations and riots and looting, etc. It's a very, very important lesson for us to know. So, first of all, we need to know that Hillel himself was a very, very calm person. How do we know? There's a seminal story in the Talmud of somebody who wants to, he takes a bet with somebody else, they make a bet, and the person says, I bet you I can make Hillel angry, I can make him scream out of anger. Okay, it's a bet, 400 zuz or whatever it was, a lot of money. So what does this gentleman do to get Hillel really, really upset? He goes to Hillel on a Friday afternoon, like 2 hours before candlelighting. If you've ever been in a Jewish home 2 hours before candlelighting on a Friday afternoon, it's kind of bedlam. Everybody's doing a showering, a shaving, and the same, of course, with the men. There's all kinds of preparations going on, the kitchen, sweeping, cleaning, mopping, all that kind of stuff. So the guy goes 2 hours before Shabbat and asks Hillel the most innocuous, silly kind of questions. And it's listed in Talmud what he's asked. And every time he comes back, the gentleman says, hello, does Hillel live here? Does Hillel live here? That's like going in front of the White House and saying, "Does the President of the United States live here?" Duh. Yeah. This is where he lived the last time you came, and he still lives here. How do you like that? Anyway, the episode is a little lengthy. It's not for now, but the bottom line is this man tries every way with his ridiculous questions, coming at the worst time, 2 hours, an hour before Shabbat begins, where everybody is so taken with all the different things they have to do to get ready for Shabbat. The bottom line is Hillel never gets upset, and he always calls him my son. What can I do for you, my son? How can I answer your questions, my son? So he doesn't even get anywhere near getting Hillel upset or angry or anxious or otherwise in a tizzy. This is Hillel, who is now saying, be one of the students of Aaron. You know who was likely one of the students of Aaron in all this? Hillel. He is an example of one who is like Aaron. So what does it mean? Aaron went to great lengths to make peace. He was an Ohev Shalom. He loved the idea of peace, the idea of people living in harmony, peacefulness. He loved the idea of people having inner peace, because you know as well as I do, world peace can only begin with people who have inner peace. If you have inner peace, it'll affect the rest of your family. If they have inner peace, it'll affect the neighborhood. If they have inner peace, it'll affect the community, the city, the state, the country, etc. And from that, it can affect how the world is peaceful or not peaceful. So it really all begins with an individual's inner peace. And Aaron knew that. He loved peace. He would go over to two people who had an argument. This is a very seminal story about Aaron and how much he loved peace. Go over to two people who are battling it out, arguing, maybe not physically, but screaming and yelling, yeah, yeah, blah, 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 yeah, how about you? Blah, 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 and they would, poof, they would leave and part. So what would Aaron do? He would go over to one of them later, maybe when they calm down. He would go over to one of them and he would say, you know, I just spoke to your friend with whom you had an argument. Your friend is so sorry about what happened. He wants to apologize to you, but he's just too embarrassed. So just, you should know that. Then Aaron would go over to the other gentleman and say, I just spoke to your friend with whom you had a major league argument. And he confided in me that he really feels terrible about what he said and what he did. And he really would love to go over to you to apologize, but he is just too embarrassed and he's not able to do that. So he sets the stage. The next time these two people see each other, each one thinks that the other really wanted to apologize but couldn't because they were too embarrassed. What would they do? They would walk over and tweak each other's nose. That's not what they did. They would walk over to each other, they would hug and embrace. No words needed to be said because Aaron already said them for each other, if you know what I mean. This was the kind of personal investment that Aaron made. Um, I have to reflect on my 25 years in the rabbinate in America, several years in Stamford, Connecticut, and then many more years in Baltimore, Maryland. And often was the case where a couple or friends or parent child kind of thing, one of them would come to me and they would say, listen, we're having a terrible argument. We can't see eye to eye on whatever. Is it possible for the two of us to come into your office and you can mediate? You can mediate our discussion, our argument, our disagreement. So my first thought was, you know, I know Aaron, the high priest. That was his specialty. But one of the reasons I always hesitated, and even though I feel like I shouldn't have hesitated, because that's what rabbis do, you're supposed to be a mediator, help people work things out. But I found out after the first few times that I did that, sure, come on in next Wednesday at 2. Why don't the two of you come in? We'll talk about it. And I was always sure that I would be able to make peace amongst the people who are having trouble having shalom, having peace. So what would happen the first few times? Here's what would happen, and here's why I didn't run to do it a whole lot more. What would happen is, as I'm talking to the two people, they come in with a certain agita level. Uh, and as we're talking, one of them would claim that I'm being nicer to the other one. The other one would say, "No, I think you're. How come you're so nice? Last time I spoke to you, you weren't. How come? You know what would happen? Bottom line, before they came in, I had two friends, and by the time they left, the first few times I tried, by the time they left, I had two people who didn't like me at all. So they were both angry because they both thought I was favoring the other in this discussion, and it got nowhere. Okay, I'm not the best mediator. Uh, very, very possible. Not trained in it. I think people are trained in such an endeavor. But this was Aaron. Aaron took the chance. He took the risk to make peace between people. So he was an Ohev Shalom. He loved peace so much that he was also a Rodev Shalom. He pursued peace. So for him, it wasn't just theoretical. Oh, peace. That's a nice thing. You can imagine George Carlin doing a whole peace. Wow, how lovely. It was lovely, but he felt he had to do something about it. So let's say somebody says, I love my dog. They say to you, I love my dog. Oh, really? What kind of a dog is it? Oh, it's a German Shepherd. Okay. How often do you feed your dog? Feed my dog? What are you talking about? I never do that. Oh, I thought you love your dog. Well, how often do you stroke it? Do you pet it? Do you pick it up and the whole thing? How often do you? Never, never. So you're telling me you love your dog, but you don't do things that indicate that you do love the dog. You don't feed it, you don't pet it, you don't lift it, you don't pick it up. The world would ask the question, how much do you love the dog? So this was one of the great things about Aaron. He didn't just love this idea of shalom, of peace in a theoretical sense. He wanted to pursue it to make it real. He wanted to concretize his love of peace by pursuing it. So some people say, Ohev Shalom, when you love peace, it means that you want to make peace between you and other people. When you're a Rodev Shalom, when you're somebody who wants to pursue peace, you try to do that between others and others. So it's kind of like a double pronged approach. I want shalom between myself and other people, and I'm a Rodev Shalom. I'm pursuing peace. I want shalom and peace between others and others, not just between me and others, but amongst all other people. I do my best to have this idea of shalom. So these were two very important facets of Aaron the high priest, who loved peace and pursued peace. Um, yeah, here's today's copy of the Jerusalem Post. It's probably going to come across to you in an inverted image, opposite image. Probably can't read a single word unless you can. I'm holding this up because I haven't had a chance to read this today. This today's Jerusalem Post. It's a whole nice 16 pages of all kinds of things, all kinds of news like this. And the reason I hold it up is I'm going to guarantee you that not only is the front page filled with news that indicates a lack of peace, but I'm going to guarantee you that throughout the entire newspaper, it's only 16 pages, not a big paper. It's a good paper, not a big paper. I'm going to guarantee you that there is not one story in this newspaper of people pursuing peace. Now you'll say, hey, people today are having their marches and demonstrations because of the death of George Floyd. I understand that. My heart goes out to his family, to all who knew him and loved him. He certainly did not deserve to die the way that he did or deserve to die at all. But the people who are demonstrating, are they out there to try to make peace or to make a point? That's a big difference. Make peace or make a point. So this is a very important lesson. We're not at the end of the lesson, but so far it's very important to have people in this world who love peace enough and who pursue peace out of that love. It's not theoretical. It's not just up in the air. They pull it down from up in the air and they make it a life's work. So the third part of his DNA is he was Ohevet Habriot. He loved God's creatures, which we understand to mean he loved other human beings, the creatures that God created. It's not he didn't pet porcupines. We're not talking about other kind. We're talking about human beings. He loved the fact that deeply embedded within each and every human being is a spark of the divine. And just for that, people deserve love, they deserve embrace, they deserve consideration, sensitivity, compassion, etc. And Aaron was superlative in all of that because he loved God's creatures. He would greet people warmly. He would be embracing with people. He would take time with people. He would ask them what's on their mind. How can I help you? He would spend as much time as he needed with people. And that was another one of his great hallmarks. He would befriend, he would show interest. Um, and this is an amazing thing about Aaron the high priest. And you may know people like that. He loved people so much that the people knew he loved them. And therefore, he could say things to them that had a bit of a critique, had a little bit, not an edge, but he could say things to them that pointed out ways that they could improve. Boy, don't we love that when people say that to us. Oh, Elon, I've been noticing you, and I think that you can improve in this and that way. I think you should be more I think you should be a lot less. What is our general reaction to that? Really? Oh, you're watching my life? Why don't you watch your life and leave me out of it? Maybe that would be a very nice thing. Leave me out of it. You take care of your life. I'll take care of my life. So, this is another hallmark of Aaron the high priest, that because they understood he loved the people so much, he was able to say things to them that had a bit of a criticism. And you know something? They would say, wow, getting that from Aaron, he must have a point. He must have a point. It seems that nobody said to Aaron the high priest, yeah, why, do, why don't you blow it out your ditty bag, as they say? Leave me alone. No, they loved when he pointed things out because they knew that it came out of love, what we call today unconditional love. And that's the kind of love that Aaron, the high priest, was able to give to all of the people with whom he dealt. Now there's this fourth part, which is the idea of umekarvan la Torah. He loved peace, he pursued peace, he loved God's creations, and from all of that, he was able to do what he felt was his number one job as a Kohen, as a priest, and that is to teach the people the Torah and to bring them closer to the Torah. That was one of his main jobs. One of his main missions is to bring people closer to the observances mentioned in the Torah. And he taught people that they can have a relationship with God and his word and his lessons. But here, the Mishnah or the teaching has a very subtle wording, very subtle wording. The fourth part of Aaron's DNA is described as umekarvan la Torah. He would bring them closer to the Torah. He would raise them to the lofty, high, holy level of the Torah. He would bring them up closer to the Torah. What doesn't it say? And it could have said it this way. It could have said, he brought the Torah closer to them. To have it phrased that way, that he brought the Torah closer to them, instead of saying he brought them closer to the Torah, it would almost indicate a compromise of what the Torah says. In other words, let me bring it down to your level. If I'm going to bring it down to your level, I'm going to teach it in a compromising way. Oh, you don't want to keep Shabbat as a Jewish person? Don't worry about it. Shabbat will survive without you. That kind of thing. Oh, you think it's too much to observe Shabbat with all of its technicalities, rules, regulations, and ultimately its freedoms to do beautiful and noble things for 25 hours on Shabbat? You don't feel you can do it? Don't worry about it. You don't think that you can keep a kosher home? Don't worry about it. You think you can keep a kosher home, but not outside of your home? Don't worry. Your dishes will go to heaven. You know, we're not sure about you, but those dishes, Corel, straight up to heaven. Anyway, to have phrased it in such a way that he would bring the Torah closer to the people would indicate that he needed to make compromises about the Torah. And you know something? Aaron was never, ever willing to do that. He didn't bring the Torah to their level. He brought them up to the level of the Torah, the beautiful, holy, noble sparks of the Torah. So, this is a very important uh, fourth part of his DNA. He didn't compromise about the value and the goals of the Torah. He brought people up, he elevated them towards the Torah and didn't bring the Torah down to their level. So I just want to mention the name of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, singer, passed away, what, 25, 30 years ago, something like that. He wrote most of the melodies that we sing in synagogues today. I believe even conservative Reform congregations have embraced many of his melodies. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. Why do I mention him? He was also known to be somebody who just loved humanity. And there's like a 450-page book about his life that I read not too long ago. He loved humanity. It didn't matter the religion, didn't matter the color. If you had that image of God in you, and because you are alive and well and walking and talking, you have the image of God in you, he loved you. Didn't matter the religion, none of it mattered. He just loved you as a human being. And I saw a beautiful story that was written in a Haggadah that was compiled by Rabbi Aaron Goldscheider. It's a beautiful Haggadah called The Night That Unites. I have it, used it for many, many years. Beautiful Haggadah. In there, he has the story of Rabbi Karlbach is asked to go to a prison. I think it was like a maximum security prison to go and meet with the prisoners. I don't know how often he did that. Maybe he did it very often. I don't know. I don't remember. But here's the one story that sticks in my head that was mentioned in this beautiful Haggadah for Passover. He goes into this prison. I don't remember if he was asked to meet with just Jewish prisoners, any prisoner, people who wanted to come and speak to him. I don't remember. It was a while ago that I read this. And here's what happened. He goes over to a prisoner who I think is described as like the most notorious prisoner in that prison. Not white collar crime, but real good, juicy crimes, unfortunately. Could have been murder, other kinds of things. Anyway, he sits down with this person and he goes over to that person. He gives them a big hug. He gives them a wonderful embrace. They sit down and they talk for a while. He listens to what this prisoner is saying to him. He's showing a keen interest in what's happening here with this prisoner. He is not in any way hesitant to relate to this prisoner because of what he has done. He just sees a human being with the image of God deeply embedded within him, and that's how he talks with him. Beautiful, loving. Right before he has to leave the prison, the gentleman has by now cried a lot because he senses that this person, this rabbi, is giving him the kind of attention he has not had for a long, long time. So Rabbi Karlbach wishes him well. He wishes him shalom. Be well, my brother. I was happy to meet you. If you ever want to be in touch, here's my address, email, whatever it was. But here's the clincher. The gentleman, the prisoner, says to him in his parting words to Rabbi Karlbach, after thanking him, appreciating him, and saying the most beautiful things to him about his visit, he says to Rabbi Karlbach, this maximum security, the toughest guy in maximum security, he says to Rabbi Karlbach, I'll tell you something. If I had somebody like you in my life while I was growing up, I would never be in this place. That's the punchline. That's the punchline of loving people, pursuing peace, loving peace, bringing people closer to the Torah, closer to the breath of life that we feel the Torah is for us. And that's the punchline. The punchline is all of this. To love peace and pursue peace is so that people all around the world, in our neighborhood, in our homes, even within us, that people can feel that there are people on the outside of them who care for them, who love them, who appreciate them, who take the time with them, who invest in them. And that can make all the difference in the world for tons and tons of people. So, dear friends, we've come to the end of our time period tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for another Pirkei Avot lesson. And again, this lesson was done for the refuah shlema, the complete and speedy recovery of a very special young man, Avigdor Chai Avraham ben Rachel Leah. May he have a complete and speedy recovery, and may all of his ills and all of his worries, anxieties, concerns, and those of his parents, may they all disappear, and may he have a beautiful, long, happy, and a healthy life. I wish you, each and every one of you, good health, happiness, a sparkling week, and God willing, we'll see you either Wednesday for 5 Derech Eretz lessons in the Torah portion, or, God willing, again next Monday. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining. Bye bye now. Shalom.